So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome. Got a special guest here today. I got Noah from Quality Autism. Yes, sir. All the way from over in Germany. So yeah, a little different time. We just figured out it's about a 7 hour time difference here between us.
Mhm.
So yeah. So here we got Noah. Noah, if you want, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about the channel.
Yeah, sure. I'm the only creator on this great channel, Quality Autism. It well, let me start. Originally, the channel wasn't supposed to be just Star Wars, but it kind of turned out that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's and just kind of like when we were pre-talking here before we started, you said you're the only channel so far that you see over in Germany that really talks about Star Wars.
Well, there are obviously other channels that talk about Star Wars, but it's similar to like Star Wars Explained, that type of, or like Eckhart's Letter, where it's more lore based. They take like one topic and then make a little video about it, explaining it, but they don't really talk about the books, the comics, and the stuff in detail, like the actual stories, reading it, or playing the games or something. I think in that regard, I am definitely the biggest because it's relatively hard to find like video reviews of like the Bantam era books in German. So
Right. Yeah, now I was going to ask you that too. It is like when something is released, there's a little bit of a difference. Like sometimes possibly you can't get certain books for a while. Like they've been out for months and then over in Germany you guys finally get them, or the translations is kind of there's a gap.
yeah, that's always a thing with every book and with Star Wars, um, which I've talked about before. We have every book now, at least every like adult novel. YA stuff is a whole different topic. We have most of the important stuff, but it's like Young Jedi Knights is missing the final trilogy, like the final three books. Junior Jedi Knights and stuff like Jedi Prince never got translated. Some other series got like cut off in the middle, like Galaxy of Fear. But we did get all of like with the prequel era, late 90s, early 2000s, we got all of the Jude Watson material, for example.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, that's a good series to have.
And what's funny with the books, one of the last like adult novels that got translated years later in German was The Ruins of Dantooine, the tie-in novel to the video game Star Wars Galaxies, which came out in like 2004 or something. So, and it was released in 2015 in Germany.
That's insane. I can't even really fathom that. Being here in the States, there's never really an issue like that. You know.
Yeah, but
So yeah,
that's an interesting thing with being like a book reader in Germany. Like you have a favorite author or something, and he's releasing a new book. And for me, it's always okay. The book is announced. Obviously, if it's like an American author, so the American publishing date is established, what the title is, what the cover is, and you are excited. But then you have to wait for the same information, but in German. You get a new title, a new cover, and obviously a different publication date. And
yeah,
I remember back in the day, because 2013ish, when I was younger, I was big into Stephen King, still kind of am. And I remember always being worried what the German title would be with every new release, because the German book titles are very special most of the time. Even with Star Wars books, there are some gems in there.
yeah. I seen that a friend of mutual, someone that we watch, Christopher Nelson. He tries to collect some of the foreign and some of the titles, and I believe he did a few videos on, excuse me, some of the German copies of books you got, and they were pretty odd, different names.
Yeah.
I can just imagine what the Stephen King ones were, if some of them were changed or not.
Oh yeah. The Stephen King ones, it's It's amazing. They changed most of his titles to like one word titles. Like for example, Misery became She.
Really?
Yeah, that's insane. They put Misery like as a subtitle under it in recent releases, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's because of the popularity of it,
Yeah.
and they try to kind of
Yeah. Yeah. Go with that kind of
yeah.
same rhythm. Yeah. So with it being kind of hard and waiting so long, how I know you have a pretty big collection of books.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you have all the EU material or not.
Definitely not all of it,
No.
but all of
Okay.
the adult novels I have.
I'll, okay. So how long did that did you have to buy them off of, like, we'll say Amazon or eBay or
Yeah, the way I did it, I bought a bunch of the German translated ones, paperbacks, obviously, that were still like available on Amazon. And some that were like interesting looking, I got secondhand. But at some point, I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna go with like the Del Rey paperbacks in English, so that I have like a uniform looking shelf, essentially. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I can see it back there that it looks pretty good. Whatever, the books you have that are shown behind you. But yeah,
yeah. So it looks good, and yeah, basically it took like 1 or 2 years, and then I got all of the expanded universe books, and that was it. And then I have started buying some more of like the German ones, all of the YA stuff, like the Jude Watson stuff that I mentioned. I only have in German as of now because it's harder to find in English.
right. Yeah, I recently just picked up all my copies of Jude Watson's, Jedi Apprentice series, and it was kind
Mhm.
of a struggle. Even here, that still some of the Star Wars books and material is like very scarce, or people kind of seems like they overcharge. It's
Mhm.
kind of a shame, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so ultimately, what got you into Star Wars? Like, what was the first moment? It's like, I need to know more about this.
Well, I'm trying to think because I think for me it's a case of like Star Wars has always been around. Like I had two older siblings, and obviously because of that, there was already like Star Wars toys and stuff lying around. My older brother had like Star Wars video games. I know he had Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords. I vaguely remember as a very small child um, trying to play it at some point. And then I played stuff like the original Battlefront and Battlefront 2 with a friend. I had like The Force Unleashed 1 and 2 for the Wii, and obviously Lego Star Wars, the complete saga, the best game.
Yep, yep, I got that too still.
Hmm. And yeah, so essentially I got into it with the games, I guess, which is weird because, as most of my viewers know, I'm not a big video game fan at all.
Right.
But the moment I decided I want to know more, at some point, it was after the Disney purchase, but before the decanonization.
Crash and
Second
Noah.
attempt.
Yeah, second attempt. Here we go. So we were talking about how you got into it. You were talking about the video games, your older brother,
Hmm.
and then that led you down the path of wanting to know more or dive deeper into the whole lore. Or how did somebody bring it up to you that there's more than this?
Well, I just remember seeing like advertisements for some of the books because I remember my mom buying me like a magazine that had like a Phantom Menace comic. I think it was just Phantom Menace from the POV of Obi-Wan.
Okay.
And I remember in the back it had like Darth Plagueis and YA stuff like the Ryder Winton books, Darth Maul, The Wrath of Darth Maul. And I was curious, so I asked her to like, buy them for me. And I remember 20 between 2012 and 2014, so after the sale but before the decanonization, I was looking through the internet, just interested to see what else is there. And I remember reading on Wikipedia about Palpatine, and it said like, oh, his return, the story from the Dark Empire comics. And I was intrigued. And I saw all these, these names and these events completely foreign and new to me. And then I got the book, The Wrath of Darth Maul. Read it, loved it, and then it started.
That's kind of where we are today. Now he just led you down that rabbit hole of lore, and yeah, that's kind of what happened to me in a sense. I was always been a fan. Grew up with the original trilogy as a kid. Loved collecting the toys. Read some of the books as I got older, but never really, you know,
Mhm.
dove into it. And then over the last year and a half, just being on YouTube, searching up people, came across some good people that I like to follow, and then that got me excited. And that's what I've been doing is just journeying down the path of the EU and been reading and kind of picking and choosing. Now I'm like, I'm going to start from the beginning. Currently on the Darth Bane trilogy, book two, rule two, which a reread from years ago. So I'm just going to kind of try to follow it in chronological order in a sense. I don't have comics. That's kind of
Mm.
I never went down that rabbit hole yet, and it's pretty pricey from what I've looked into
Yeah,
so far.
comics, comics. That's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. I eBayed and looked on Amazon a little bit, and it's like, man, I don't really feel like kind of paying that price. So I'm kind of kicked myself for not getting involved in that back in the day. You know.
Yeah, I think nowadays the best option really is just getting them digitally. I mean, at least it's the cheaper, option.
Right. But
But obviously, you want to have them if you're a collector or something.
I was just gonna say, do you prefer physical? I mean, I prefer physical. So
Yeah, definitely. I will just go with digital if like there's no other option. Like I know I have a bunch of like hard to find EU stuff saved on my PC digitally.
ooh, nice.
Stuff that's like you can't get printed. Well, at least I can read it.
Right. Yeah. I had recently met John Jackson Miller, and I just kind of came off the Old Republic books, so I wanted to know more. And he actually had a few copies of the omnibus of Volume
Mm.
1 and 2, and I'm like, oh, how much are them? And it was like $300, which it would have been cool to buy it from him and then have him sign it, but I just couldn't afford that.
Mm.
Um, so is there a certain well, what are you reading right now? Let's
Right
start
now,
with that. Yeah.
I'm rereading the original Marvel comics. I'm gonna do like quick reviews for every issue on my channel. And I'm also reading, for the first time, through the rest of the Galaxy of Fear series. Because so far, I only read the original six, and I finished book seven yesterday, actually. And now I'm excited for books 8 through 12.
Nice. Yeah, them are hard to find. I only have one, and I've been looking for them too, just to add to the
Mhm.
collection. So it, they're kind of hard to find for me, and you're excited and you're reading them. Is there a book right now that like on your shelf that you're really proud to have? That's kind of a rare gem, we'll say.
Well, I do recently got a self printed paperback of the Dark Forces trilogy by William C. Deeds.
Ooh,
And it's the same format, fits perfectly with the rest of the bookshelf.
that's pretty nice. That's
Yeah.
pretty nice. I
Only little problem is the cover. It doesn't say Deeds, it says Dites. It's a little misspelling.
well,
But hey,
well,
it's the
right,
books. It's there.
right, right. So what I wanted to talk about is this little baby right here this is your first book right here, man. So congratulations on that. And
Thank you.
I will put a link in the description. I'll figure it out for the Amazon where you can purchase this baby. But it's the ultimate chronology. And I got to tell you, from what I've read through so far, I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed with this. It's gives you the information that you need. It's to the point. There's not a lot of fluff or hogwash in here, we'll say. So that is awesome, man. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this baby right here and what ultimately made you want to write a book?
Yeah, sure. So what led to this was essentially going back to like me as a younger child, 20, let's say 2013-ish, reading about all the stuff on like Wikipedia, and you see like, oh, the Dark Empire story, and Luke fell to the dark side, became Palpatine's apprentice, Yuuzhan Vong, and it's like, oh, all of that sounds interesting, but I have to click on each different article, and in my stupid child brain, I can't really follow like what is the order of things. Like all of this seems to have happened, but when did it happen? What is going on? And so I got thinking like something I would like to see is like a complete just telling of the story, after the films for like the people, because it's scattered across like RPGs, short stories, games, books, comics, all the stuff. And getting it like a comprehensive version of it, just telling you all the stuff in the correct order. I think that's just a good thing for like people who can't get all of the material or don't want to read like 200 books, but they are still interested in it and they want to know more. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, so I just thought, hey, this is a book that would be great for like already existing fans. Maybe they learn something new with the connections between stories, and obviously the newcomers.
Yeah. For me, when I was paging through it, and what ultimately made me decide that I wanted to purchase this, for one, I wanted to help you out. It's your first book. I like the content that you provide us. You're very educated in the EU. But I've kind of bounced around with what I was reading. And like I said, I'm kind of starting from the beginning. And this will kind of be a refresher in a sense. Like if you forget something, for me, like I just paged through the Truce of Bakura. I've read that book already. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Boom, boom. And then it flowed perfectly into the next, like you said, on the timeline, because the timeline is a lot to take in when you really look at it. It's like, whoa, when did this happen? No, I thought that happened before Shadows of the Empire. No, it was after Return of the Jedi. So yeah, and I mean, this baby's 465 pages. So you put some work into this, buddy.
Definitely.
Um,
I didn't think it would be that long actually, because like, the software I used to write it, it was like, oh, it's only like 370 pages. I was like, okay, not quite as long. I was hoping for like this magnum opus, but then it's like, oh, once you convert it to like PDF and the right print format, oh, it's way longer. Like the German version is 530 pages.
oh, so you though how I'm gonna see. I'm gonna give some credit here to some people, and I really like the introduction in this. In this, by the way, it's made me laugh at one point. I'm not gonna say anything to spoil it for anyone, but so it was translated into English by Ken Palpatine.
Mhm.
I would assume is that a friend of yours, or is that
Yeah,
somebody that?
on his pen name on Discord. Mhm.
Okay, cool, cool. And then it was edited, excuse me, by Marcel Ryan and Greyholm Lebron. Is that how
Mhm.
you would pronounce that?
Yeah, both also on the Discord, and Marcel has his own YouTube channel.
Oh, very nice, very
Mhm.
nice, very nice. Yeah, I was just excited. I wanted to get you on here. I'm glad that you wanted to come on, sit down, and do some chatting about something we're both passionate about. Is there anything in the book that you thought you could have added, or kind of maybe we're like, nah, maybe I'll save this for a book two if I decide to write more?
Oh yeah, yeah. There are a couple of things. Since this is all about the stuff after Return of the Jedi, um, one thing was I kind of didn't want to stop writing because I kept finding new little like nuggets of information. Like there is this audiobook for children called like what was it? The Mixed Up Droid. And it's just like this little like 20-minute, audio drama with like voice actors for Han and Leia and C3PO, and it's essentially just a story. They are going to go to a diplomatic, you know, thing on this planet, and 3PO has a little bit of technical issues. And I wanted to include it somehow in my book in like a one-off sentence. But I found it so late in the editing process, I just, you know what, this may be too much. I'm gonna leave this one out.
Little
But when I'm gonna do like a second edition, like a new version of it, I may include it.
Gonna get it in there.
Yep.
Yep, of
And then
course.
there's little stuff like I have included like cancelled material in here, as long as it is like fits with the established canon, like a Blood Oath, which was supposed to be a novel after Legacy of the Force. I included like what we know from the basic story outline because it perfectly fits with what is established in the later books, that would have come after the Fate of the Jedi series.
Right.
So it's not like I was very careful not to include like fan fiction in that sense, but I included cancelled material when it, perfectly fitted in, like Lightsider, which got recently made public, Heart of the Jedi, obviously, and I really wanted to include the story for Star Wars Fairy Tales, which was like this YA idea for books by John Whitman, who had written Galaxy of Fear. And he gave us like plot, essentially like quick summaries what it was going to be about, but without like a definitive ending or anything. And I wanted to include it, but I just couldn't find the right spot for it. And in the way my book is written and set up, it would have needed like an ending to the stories. Like the summaries were just like, oh, Jason and Jaina go to a museum on Tatooine. They meet this magical creature and they have an adventure, but there's not like an ending or like,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I some of that material I haven't even read yet. And I did see a recent video. Congratulations, by the way. I know you hit 1,000 and you're actually over. You got like 1,100 subscribers now. So congratulations on that, man, by the
Thank you.
way. And I seen that you gave a little excerpt from Lightsider, I
Mhm.
believe. So that was pretty interesting because I wasn't familiar with that at all, nor Heart of the Jedi, until I actually won a copy off of a YouTube channel that I follow, Star Wars Timeline with Ben, awesome guy.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's really neat. Had I not known about them and just got this book somewhere, I would have been like, well, what's this all about? Is there more to? How long did it really take you to write this, or and how many times have you went back and, like you said, you kept going back trying to fit things in? Like, what was
Well,
that process like?
I started writing in like I think December 2020, but definitely all of 2021. I actually sat down, every couple of weeks, finding the time, after work and stuff, and writing it. And then at the end of 2021, I thought I was done, and I finished it and recorded a like 17-hour long YouTube video that I split into 3 parts, essentially like an audiobook version of it. And then I published it on my channel. And then just this year, I decided, okay, I'm gonna write some more. I found some more information, some new stories that I didn't know about before, including them, in the book as well. And then it just went out of control until it got published.
Yeah, and that's got to be a great feeling that you contributing to such a fandom, and how appreciative this could be for them, like even for a guy like me. Like, I'm excited for this thing, and I
Yeah.
want to get it out there because it's simple but perfect at the, you know what I mean? It's just, you did a really good job, man, with this
Mhm.
book so far. Do you plan on doing a prequel chronology like this?
Well, already writing it.
Mm,
That's the thing. Yeah. So with this book and the next two, actually, I'm writing, I'm going into it with like, oh, let me show you. I have it here actually. This baby here is like a bare bones basic.
okay.
The new essential chronology from 2005.
Okay.
Now, this was already like an attempt to do what I'm doing here, but not as long, obviously. This book is trying to tell the entire history of the Star Wars universe up until 2005, obviously. Um, but it has to cut a lot of corners because it's only allowed to be like 200-ish pages, and obviously also having artwork in it and stuff.
Right.
Um, but I used it as like a basis of how I want to set up my book, this really ultimate chronology. And I'm gonna use this as well for like the prequels because it has like a good old Clone Wars timeline from like before TCW, changed it all up. And right now I'm writing the Dawn of the Jedi until, well, Darth Bane, essentially the entire Old Republic era and like beginning of the universe and stuff. 90 pages into it, and I've just hit SWOTOR, the online game.
Ah, how's that going for you?
Confusing because I don't play games, so I have to research and I have to rely on the people on my Discord who actually play
Play
the
it, get
stuff.
into it.
Yeah, and they have to explain a lot of it to me, and it is confusing, that part.
I actually started playing that recently as well, and I just kind of had to put it off to the side because it's like this is a game I need to spend a lot of time doing, and with work, and I have a
Mhm.
family, and then I got my channel that I just kind of started for fun to interact with people like you. I just had to because it's like I was starting to YouTube. Okay, what do I got to do here? And that even can take up some time. But back on the subject of the book, that's awesome to hear, and I'm excited to hear that you're working on a prequel uh, version too. You got a timeline of when you'd like to have this done, or it's just
Well,
kind of as you
I
go?
would like to have it done as quickly as possible, obviously. I want to get my stuff out there. Realistically, I'm thinking of the end of the year. Well, I'm hoping the Old Republic one at least is finished by like, let's say July, just randomly, maybe the middle of the year somewhere. And then obviously I have to get to like prequel era and Dark Times and Rebellion.
Okay,
And that would then lead right into the finished chronology, which is post Endor stuff.
right, right. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Are you gonna try to add anything different to the style of how you wrote, or are you just gonna kind of keep it the way that you had it?
I'm still thinking about it because my idea was the post Endor one is finished and done. And my idea was, okay, I'm gonna bring out the Old Republic one as like its own book, and then the prequel through Rebellion era is its own book. Um, but then I wanted to, do a 3-in-1 essentially and make it one long actual like the entire history of the Star Wars expanded universe. The story, the timeline.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be cool.
yeah, and obviously I would change the format a little bit just so it flows better. The three separate books into each other.
Okay. And any pictures, or is that a whole other kind of process?
I was thinking about it, but that may be too much.
Too
And
much?
also, what if I want to get it up on Amazon and I have like too easily recognizable Star Wars stuff in there? I'm a little bit afraid they're gonna go after me.
Yeah, I don't know how that whole process works when it comes to on the publishing and putting it on Amazon for sale. I'm sure because it would be easy just to take images off the web of something that you like and look and slap it on there, but I'm sure that would probably bring up a red flag.
Yeah.
They're just like Heart of the Jedi, that was up there and then gone.
Hmm.
Um, did the design, did you come up with the way it looks here with the
Um, oh yeah, I did with the Amazon's own little like thing to do it, which was actually pretty easy, which was nice. This English one looks a little bit different than the German version,
okay,
which is like has a slightly different space background, and the font is a little bit tilted.
tilted?
Mhm.
Yeah. I think it feels good, and the US version I like it. It's good. The pages are nice and easily turned. The font's
Yeah,
clear. I mean, it came out really well.
yeah. I was surprised when I got it when I ordered my own copy to see how it turned out. It's a little bit bigger than the German version.
Oh, okay, really
Mm.
interesting. So how is it a simple process? You know, you can maybe explain to people on like you're right. You know, you got a book, you got it ready to go, and you want to put it on Amazon. I mean, is it an easy process?
Well, once your book is written and you want to get it up on Amazon, at least my experience now with getting this one done, um, the difficult part was like getting the PDF like ready, because you have to make sure like the text fits within like their, what they want.
Right.
Um, and that for me was like the hard part, because I don't know how to format correctly. I needed a bit of help with that. But what was easy with Amazon was getting the cover done, because they have like, oh, select your image and like your style you want it in, and then you can just type in the title, put it on the cover. That's all very very easy actually. I tried self-printing my book with like different websites, Lulu for example, which turned out good. But getting my self-made cover into the right format was difficult.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not familiar with any of that. I've never been a writer. I don't probably have it in me. So I commend you again for doing this, man. Um, after the book has been, so it's recently just been available in the US, right? Have you had this out a little bit longer over by you in Germany?
Only a couple of days actually.
Okay. So there
Yeah,
really
I think
wasn't much.
both came out in like the first week of December, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I was like I said, I got the information from Christopher Nelson. So shout out to him, We'll
Yeah,
just we'll
famously, I gave him a little quote on
I
the back.
I was gonna say that, yeah, it's pretty good. What a genius, literary scholar. Very very cool. Yeah, Chris is a heck of a guy. I just watched finished his fifth, him and Dylan's fifth. I don't know if you've been following that or watching
Yeah,
their
yeah, I
whole
have.
chain of events there. It feels like it could be a Netflix series or a documentary. The way that it's going. So maybe hey, we can get him on national television to tell that story. And I've been kind of a fan. It's a mixed here. We'll jump into this a little bit, talking about the Disney side of things here. I've been kind of like picking and choosing what I like. I like the EU. I wish I had no idea that they canceled in 2014. They put a kibosh to it. I didn't know that whole thing happened where they made all the books and everything kind of non-existent in the timeline. So I watched that and I've been picking and choosing with the Disney stuff. And then Chris said something like, there's a whole lot of new fans that are out there now, and they're kind of torn between Disney and the EU, and they're kind of picking and choosing. And it's like, yeah, I see what you're saying, man. But it's like this EU movement just wants the EU to continue. And it kind of didn't click on me because I'm like, well, I don't know. In some of my videos, it's like, go back to the legend stuff. There's a lot of material there. Grab it, make a television show, kind of stick with that, not doing your own thing, which doesn't really seem to be working. And I'm not bashing them because I like Obi-Wan. I didn't like Andor at all. I thought Book of Boba Fett was okay. The Mandalorian, yeah, I watched that with my wife and kids, so that's cool. But I never really thought about continuing the EU. And I never read the last book that was Crucible, I believe, right? Was
Mhm.
the I never read that, and I heard they just kind of left it like at a cliffhanger in a sense.
Yep.
So it's like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, I mean, if you want to get into that at all, on the Disney side of things and continuing the EU.
Well, continuing the EU, my naive idea. Obviously, we wouldn't get a continuation under the current leadership at Lucasfilm, but my idea, what like a nice company like should do, discontinuing the EU was a mistake. I think what should have been done, just say, okay, we're gonna make a new movie trilogy. We're not gonna follow the books that cover like 140 years essentially, if you count the legacy comics as well. And it's like, okay, that's a shame, but okay, we get it. So then just say, okay, books are gonna now be the separate thing. We're gonna make our new canon, but for like the old fans, your stuff is not the main canon anymore, but we're gonna give you an ending, and we're gonna release like a couple of books. We're not gonna continue it like for decades, 10 books every year or something, but we're gonna bring out like this certain amount of books to finish off the big stories, and maybe a comic every now and then, who knows. And that would be like, okay, like slowly fading it out and giving us a sense of closure and ending would have been what I would have done if I was in charge of a company like that. Because the way they have done it, obviously a lot of people are unhappy with it, just saying, okay, we are done, go away. If you're not gonna following our new stuff, then
Yeah, that's kind of how, like I said, I didn't read the book, but everybody says they just kind of left it, and then they just canceled it. And then, when you think about it, it kind of blows your mind with all that work and effort that was put in over a span of how many years, writing books and comics and collaborating, some of the authors, that are really great, they're not even involved in writing Star Wars anymore. So
yeah.
that's kind of a shame too, all on its own, you know.
And I mean, we have authors like Drew Carpation famously. He said he would be up for writing like a Darth Vader novel, and he approached Lucasfilm a couple of times, but they were like, nah, no, no, we don't want to do this because it would have been a sequel to his Darth Bane trilogy, and that's Legends, and they don't want to continue it.
Right. Yeah, him, Kevin J. Anderson, I really like the Jedi Academy trilogy. I thought that was great. Just want to throw that out there. But yeah, Drew Karpyshyn, yeah, I mean, he's fantastic. And it just kind of seems like they're just sticking with Timothy Zahn because of the whole Thrawn thing, and they're making a lot of money off, all these Thrawn books that they're coming out with now. So I think
Mhm.
what you said was really, really well. Just continuing it to give us an ending that makes sense, And eventually, when I get there in my reading, I'm probably going to feel the same way, right?
Mhm.
So on the other hand, have you
And
paid it?
this reminds me of,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, but sorry, internet is a little bit
Yep.
shitty again. But yeah, this reminds me of something Chris Nelson has said. You know, back in the day when the EU was like the big thing and all the stuff was coming out, fans could stick to their own eras. There were people who only cared about Old Republic and people who only cared about post Endor. And nowadays, we fans just take everything essentially. Like, I'm someone who doesn't really care about Old Republic, but I started reading like the SWOTOR short stories. I'm not too big into the Rebellion era, but Joe Bongiorno recently also released like a cancelled short story he had written for the Rebellion era. And I'm also excited to read that because it is new content I haven't read before. So we can't stick to like our preferred eras anymore. We just essentially take everything nowadays.
Yeah, right, right. And that's kind of what I'm doing. And I've become a really big fan of the Old Republic, and that's kind of makes me want to get more, like I said, the comic book side of things. But it's pricey. But that whole era interests me. I'm not, and then you go to the New Republic, the New Rebellion, the whole deal. So have you read any of the newer canon novels at all, or?
Yeah, years ago I did try it and I read some of it. Let me see. I stopped at some point,
Yeah.
obviously. Um, Let me see. I did read the James Luceno books, Tarkin and Catalyst, which I remember being decent enough. I did read two of the Timothy Zahn Thrawn books. The first one, Thrawn, was decent, and then I disliked Thrawn Alliances so much I just couldn't continue.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm
heard.
I'm still debating with myself if I'm maybe gonna review the third one just for my channel because I know some of my fans want it. Maybe.
Yeah, put it on the list of maybes. Yeah, I started reading. I read some of the High Republic books, and then that just got like too much. Like a lot of characters, a lot of stuff's happening. Books, comics, young adult novels, kids books, and they all kind of tying together, but you don't have to read them all to understand the story. I just kind of was like, okay, that's enough. I mean, I Master and Apprentice I thought was good. I really enjoyed that one. You know, anything with Qui-Gon that you can get in Obi-Wan is you know, you take it. But then I kind of just, like I said, I went back to the beginning, and it just makes more sense in a sense, you know, like that story, that whole timeline that they have there for us.
Mhm.
What about the shows? Do you get any? Do you watch any of the newer shows that they're coming out with?
Nope, not at all. The only movies and shows I've seen Force Awakens, Rogue One, and Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, really?
That's
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 it, eh?
it.
Oh, wow.
That's all I have seen because someone on my Discord shared like Rise of Skywalker, so we all came together and watched it. Had a good time, mostly because some were suffering while watching the movie. Obviously, that was fun. But yeah,
Yeah.
but I've never been like much of like a. I've never been a big fan of like TV shows. Sitting
Okay.
down for hours and watching stuff. Not necessarily my thing.
Okay. No, I get it, man. That's cool. Yeah. I have a hard time. I kind of, well, I watch the shows just because it's Star Wars content, but I I just haven't been happy with a lot. And then after listening to people and other podcasts and hearing their sides of the story and opinions, you know, some of it can sway your. It's like, oh, I never thought of it that way, or
Mhm.
I didn't really. Okay, that makes sense now. You know, so that's kind of how I've been. It's kind of changing my wheels a little bit, and I think
Mhm.
some of the stuff is just nostalgia feeling, you know, like the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, seeing Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor back, you know, that brought me back to the high school era, you know, and friends and all that stuff. And so, yeah, everybody's got their own thing. And the books, it adds so much more to the movies or to the shows, you know, that we are given. So that's really cool. You know, I'm sure that's how you feel as well.
Yeah.
So what's on the plan for the future for you? Like beyond you get these three books done, say they go well. I mean, have you wrote any or written any fan fiction?
I did write some Star Wars fan fiction recently. It started as like a joke, essentially as a shitpost, but then it turned real.
Eh?
Um, the Jedi Prince YA series, which is infamous among the fandom because it's like so bad, it's good. And I'm a big fan of it. I think
Okay.
it's really damn funny. And essentially, during past live streams I had, I just came up with the idea, hey, let's write a conclusion trilogy. And because that YA series ended on like a cliffhanger, because obviously Lucasfilm didn't want it to continue with the final three books
Yeah.
because it's so silly. But then I actually sat down and wrote it. And apparently it's getting good reviews because I've seen people on like Joe Bongiorno's Discord server self-printing it, which is
Really?
surprising.
That's awesome, man. I
Yeah.
had no idea. I'll have to get the link from you and check it out.
Oh yeah, sure. I posted them for free on like fanfiction.net and
It
seem to be doing well.
do you collaborate or work for any like that you could share other you know, websites? I know there's a lot of different, like the expandinguniverse.com and Star Wars timeline.net.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
do you,
obviously that's the two
them are the
big
two main?
ones really because I'm like friends with Matt Wilkins, obviously
Yep.
expandeduniverse.com, Star Wars Timeline with Joe stuff. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
basically the only two websites I'm somewhat affiliated with. I've never even talked to Joe, but that's I'm somewhat affiliated with him.
No, no, that's cool. I was gonna ask you what the best sites like, for people watching this if they want to get more information on the expanded universe compared to just what we're talking about now. If where you would recommend them to go.
Oh yeah, then definitely those two websites.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Matt Wilkins is sure he knows his stuff and he's been doing this a long time and pretty smart guy himself. Um, have you and him, I know he's wrote some things or, put things together. Have you worked with him on writing anything or
Oh, on writing, not really.
no?
There's one thing I have in mind. It's not really a collaboration, but I was thinking if I get my chronology like done and ready, like 3 in 1, I was thinking about asking Matt, like, hey, would you like to write like a little foreword? Since you're the big EU fan guy, everyone knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's way ahead. I will ask him about it at some point.
Yeah. 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 He sure made his mark with the EU, that's for sure. In a positive way, I mean, he's very knowledgeable. Have you ever come over to the States?
Nope.
You never been? No, never been over here.
I'm far too afraid of like flying in an airplane.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I got to fly when I was younger. My dad's boss had his own plane and he flew and he took us up in the air one day in a small plane and I was scared. I'll tell you that much. It was pretty frightening, but on bigger commercial flights, it's you don't even really can't tell the difference.
Mhm. But one
Uh,
thing I had recently, uh, I had Jeremy from another YouTube channel, Stupid Chainsaw Productions. He
yep.
actually came to visit with, you know, his family. They made a trip to Germany, and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna, visit you while I'm here." And that was fun. Like we were hanging out for a couple of hours, filming a little room tour with all my books, which I don't know when he's gonna release it, but that should be fun because yeah, he was pretty impressed how many books are in my house.
Yeah, I was gonna mention some of the other affiliates and friends of yours that you work with, and Jeremy at Stupid Chainsaw Productions. I follow him too. You do a Legends podcast with him from time to time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I listen to that, and that's pretty good too. And you guys can get pretty funny. Um, yeah, you worked with him, Matt Wilkins, Christopher Nelson, Adam, Adam Bryant, Red 5 Reviews, heck of
Mhm.
a guy there too. Um, yeah, so that's cool that he came over there and visited you. You guys should have sat down and did a little stream, a live stream or something together. Or did you? I don't.
Sadly, we didn't. There wasn't enough time because
Oh,
the amazing thing is, I live in a very small village on one side of the state Bavaria,
okay.
and Jeremy was like, "Oh, we're gonna land in Nuremberg, the biggest city," and it's like, okay, that's let's say like 2 hours away from me, like that's basically in the middle of Bavaria. I'm on this side.
Okay.
Okay, easy. And then like a couple of days before the travel started for him, he was like, "Oh, I was wrong. We're actually in this big city, and it's like literally on the other side of the state."
Oh,
And it's like, okay, that's gonna take a little bit longer for him to arrive. So he had to travel for like 2 or 3 hours uh, with different trains, changing trains without speaking the language or
ooh,
understanding anything through the state.
ooh. Well, he made the journey. Yeah, he
Yeah.
got there. That's cool. That's cool. That's really cool too when you meet people together, on something that you both enjoy and are passionate about, and then you actually meet up. I know a lot of guys go to like big cons over here and conventions and such. Um, I have a hard time traveling far. I got some health issues. That's why I stand up a lot. So driving and flying is kind of out of the picture for me now, but it'd be really cool to be able to go to one of them big Star Wars conventions and get
Mhm.
together with everyone and meet up. So that's really cool that he did that with you, you know? Did he take you out to dinner or buy you lunch or something?
Uh, no,
No.
I gave him something to eat because he hadn't actually like eaten German food yet. So that was nice. I gave him some books, some of the German exclusive Indiana Jones novels.
Oh,
In return, he gave me pretty awesome the Legacy Comics Epic Collection from Marvel,
oh,
which
that's
I had.
awesome.
Yeah, I had the last three, but not the first one because it was like out of print and very expensive. But he had one left, so that was nice.
That's cool. Yeah, that's really cool. Cool. Is there anything that you want to talk about, promote, put out there from your channel? Anything that you want to?
Promoting, well, except for my book, there's not
Well,
much going on currently.
get this baby.
Yep.
No? Yeah.
Mhm.
Any big podcast or interviews or anything in the works coming up for you soon?
Not I'm trying to think in terms of like streams with other people. I would like to do more live streams again. I kind of stopped, but I would like to get back into that. Interviews, not really, unless you count a stream with Matt Wilkins,
Yep.
which hopefully I will be able to join some more, this year. Um, Otherwise, not
Not
much
much.
planned.
No.
With the reviews, I'm currently um, so I started like 2 years ago reviewing everything after Return of the Jedi, and I'm almost done with the Legacy comics. At least the Kate Skywalker run, and then there's the shorter one after that, and then I'm done.
Nice.
And then I have to see what to do. The KOTOR comics and the Marvel stuff. So
Yeah. Is there any other fandoms that you like that you are very interested in, or
oh yeah, sure. I'm getting into the Indiana Jones Expanded Adventures, as it's called, because that's also a connected universe, which is probably also gonna die with the new Indiana Jones movie. I'm gonna guess.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because that's fascinating because people don't really know or care about it. But Indiana Jones also has an expanded universe that's is still like intact currently.
I recently heard that somewhere. I think it might have been on one of your guys's podcast or something where you just briefly touched on it a little bit, and I had no idea. I'm like, that's pretty intense that they got a
Yeah,
whole other world outside of the films.
yeah. And what's interesting about it is it's a series of books by Bantam, also from the 1990s. So that's nice. But there's also German exclusive novels, which that makes me glad to be German because I can easily read them. I have them. And there are comics and stuff. So that's something I really want to get into. And it's just really interesting because they asked like Leland Shee and like people at Lucasfilm when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, if the stuff is still canon, and after 2014, obviously with Star Wars, they were also like, so is indie still a thing with all the material? And they said,
Yeah,
it's essentially like they shrugged, like, I guess it's still official.
Hmm.
We don't know.
that's
But
cool.
yeah,
That's
uh,
cool.
besides that, I'm also a fan of James Bond. And I'm also doing a podcast about it with Jeremy, which we have to get back to work on that because we kind of got stuck. We still have to do Moonraker, his
Oh,
favorite
okay,
movie.
okay, that's cool. So you guys are going all the way back with Bond, hey?
Yep, we're going through the movies, the books, and I'm reading the continuation novels from the 80s right now.
Cool.
That's fun.
That's cool. Is there any piece of Star Wars content that you wish that you had or would like to get your hands on?
Tricky question. Stuff that actually has been published and is hard to find, or like cancelled stuff? Because I would like to get stuff like fairy tales or Escape from Dagu or Mandorla, these cancelled projects, novels. That
Yeah,
would be something.
yeah. I've heard a little bit about some of them too. That yeah, it'd be nice to get some of that stuff published. What is talking about that, what are your thoughts on the Essential Legends collection that they're coming out with?
Well, I'm not that interested in it. I know the one big thing is like what's more interesting about it is the new audiobooks, like the unabridged ones. I'm not too big into audiobooks, but I guess it is cool to have like for people who don't want to read, just listen to it. That's a cool thing to have. And apparently that's also now done. Because I think they said, oh, we're not going to do it anymore.
Oh,
At least
really?
for the
Yeah,
next,
the next
uh,
wave.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that's kind of a shame because otherwise I have no real interest in it. It's just a re-release of the book, like nothing really changed, with a
right.
new cover each time. But to me, the covers have been like, for the most part, with like some exceptions. I think the Plagueis cover is pretty okay, and the
Yep.
Shadowhunter one, but not where it's like, oh my god, I need to get this immediately.
Right. Yeah, I've been collecting them, and I did some videos about the covers compared to the originals, and I just like that trade paperback size book. I like the way it feels. Um, I like some of the new covers, some of them I don't. You know, it's a mixed feeling because the
Mhm.
originals are always going to be great because they were the originals in what we had. And on the audio book side of things, I never really got into doing that either. I tried, but I'm like a squirrel sometimes, so I'm like, nah, I can't really focus unless I'm actually reading it, you know, which I'm sure a lot of people have that problem. But I heard the Shadow Point audio bridge was really good, and the Shadow Hunter was really good, the audiobook too. So yeah. Favorite Star Wars character?
Okay, tough question.
Have some fun questions here and then before we wrap things up.
Okay, Lando Calrissian. Gotta
Really?
be him. Gotta be him.
The Slick
Because
Man.
I was thinking, having read not all of the EU, but most of it, I would say, Lando is a character who is pretty much never written badly. Like every time Lando shows up, he's great and he steals the show for me.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm thinking of like other characters. Like there are some stories where Luke is acting really out of character and you kind of like, eh. But with Lando, that was never really the case. For me, Lando has always been this consistent, cool character. As far as like EU exclusive characters, it has to be Gilad Pelion from the Thrawn trilogy, and obviously became a very big character afterwards.
Cool. There's some good picks. Yeah, I never would have thought Lando. I never, but yeah, it makes sense. I mean, yeah, I haven't read all the EU books myself, so I haven't got to the Lando Calrissian trilogy or the books that he's in there.
That one I highly recommend because that is pure 80s insanity.
I heard, yeah, I heard they were really good. I haven't heard a bad thing about them. I try not to read too much into like reviews or, you know, I kind of like the spoiler free stuff on books I haven't read, or if I, you know, Google it or so I try to stay away from spoilers. But yeah, I've heard nothing. I heard it's fun. It's a great read, so that
Mhm.
I'm excited to check that out. Favorite book?
Tough, tough. It's gotta be the unifying force, the final book of the New Jedi Order book series. Because to me, that ending is on par, if not even like a slightly bit better of an ending than Return of the Jedi for me.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I've heard the New Jedi Order is a great series to read.
mhm.
I'm excited to get there. But that's yeah. So it's got to be that good, hey? Okay, all right. Favorite ship,
Ooh,
if you had one.
yeah. I've never been much of a fan of like people who go like in depth with like the ships and technology and stuff. I'm trying to think. I don't know. The one that comes to mind as like an expanded universe ship is like the Minoc, the ship
Okay.
from, Kate
Yep.
Skywalker's ship. That's one I like, definitely.
Cool. Cool. I like Dash Randar's. Thought that was in the Shadows of the Empire. I thought that was
Uh,
cool. Did you ever play that game? Did you ever play this?
I do own it, but I haven't played it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
I may get to it in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. If you had, if someone was looking to get into collecting the EU or starting to read it, what would you suggest? Would you start them from the beginning, or would you maybe read read the everyone says the Thrawn trilogy right away, you know?
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on that? What would you tell someone?
My opinion on that is always it really depends. Like the person asking, "Hey, I want to read Star Wars books. Where do I start?" You have to get more specific. What do you care about? What is your interest, your era? Do you want the film characters? You want completely new characters? Clone Wars, Dark Times, Rebellion, New Jedi Order, New Republic. Get more specific. What are you interested in? And then I can obviously give better recommendations. Like someone is like, I really like Revenge of the Sith. I want something that's really good that has to do with it. I would recommend Labyrinth of Evil because that's the beauty of the expanded universe. The vast majority you can just read on its own. It's all connected, but it's all also easily accessible for newcomers.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that is a tricky kind of question when you break it down like that. What do you most people just like Luke Skywalker comes to mind. And then like you said, Revenge of the Sith, Anakin becoming Vader. In between, that's a great book. James Luceno, heck of an author. Favorite author? I didn't ask you that.
Okay, favorite author. It's tough because I really like Matthew Stover in terms of like the philosophy and stuff, but James Luceno is so consistently good and he's such a lore expert.
Yeah.
It's got to be him.
Yeah, he is great. And man, I was Drew Karpyshyn. I really like him too. He did a really great job, even with Annihilation, I believe.
Yeah,
He
that was
did
a
that.
fun one.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. Some people have mixed feelings about it, but I thought it was fun. So yeah, I wanted to ask you that. But yeah, great answers, man. Well, there you got it. There you have it. I got it. You're gonna get it, is what I meant. But you guys got to check this book out because it's awesome. It's excellent. Give Noah some support. You won't be disappointed in this baby. I'll drop a link. Try to figure out how to put that link for the book in the description. Also, I'll put your channel in there, man. It's been fun. I've had a pleasure talking with you. I could probably keep talking to you for another hour or two. I love just bouncing things off and asking questions and hearing other people's thoughts and inputs about the galaxy and fandom that we all love so much.
Yeah.
But before we go, you got anything you want to add, man?
Not really. It has been fun. It's nice seeing that you enjoy my book.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
I'm glad
Spreading
you
some
came on.
positivity in the fandom.
Absolutely, that's what it's about, and having us come together and connect and talk and just keep supporting each other. And hopefully, one day maybe things will change and we'll get that ending that everybody's been craving for and asking for years. So, yeah, there you got it, folks. Noah, check out the book, and until next time, see you guys soon.
Bye.